A chance in the library. Int. City library late afternoon. Soft rain taps against tall windows. The light outside is gray-blue but inside warm and golden. The air smells like paper, dust, and quiet. Rows of books stretch endlessly, the hush of pages turning. Emma steps inside, brushing off raindrops from her coat. She exhales softly, relieved, a refuge from the storm. She runs her fingers along the spines of the books as she walks. The sound of rain fades behind her. At the far end, James stands by a bookshelf reading. His expression, half-focused, half-smiling. Emma's eyes flicker toward him. A glance. A second too long. She turns away, and her shoulder grazes a shelf. A stack of books tumbles down. Emma. Oh no. I'm so sorry. James. Careful, these books can be dangerous. Especially the dictionaries. They're heavy and vengeful. Emma laughs despite herself. Their hands brush as they pick up the books. A quiet spark. James. Anna Karenina. Fitting choice. Coincidence? Emma. Maybe fate. Their eyes meet. The world fades to silence except for the soft ticking of a distant clock. They sit together at a small wooden table. Pages turn. She smiles at something he says. The librarian switches off a light in the background. Time passes unnoticed. Library entrance. Emma stands by the door, book in hand. The rain has stopped. Street lights glow amber through the glass. James, you should keep that one. Maybe it'll bring you luck. She turns. He's there, gentle smile, eyes warm. Emma. Or maybe trouble. Anna Karenina's not exactly a lucky charm. James. Then call it. A story in progress. He slips a bookmark into the book, smooth motion, almost shy. The bookmark reads, Fate loves those who aren't afraid to open books. Or people. Below, a phone number. Emma looks down, smiling to herself. She steps outside. The city glistens after the rain. The camera lingers on her reflection in the library glass. A soft smile. A heartbeat quicker.
The train between us. The cold wind of late October chased Emma down the steps of the London Underground. She pulled her scarf tighter, her breath visible in the morning air as the echo of footsteps filled the tunnel. The world felt gray that day, the kind of gray that seeps into your heart and makes you wonder if anything bright will ever happen again. She had just missed one train. Typical. As the next one arrived, she stepped in, the doors sliding shut behind her with a metallic sigh. The carriage was half empty, a few sleepy faces, someone scrolling through their phone, the quiet hum of the tracks below. And then she saw him. Across from her sat a young man, probably her age, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he read a worn-out copy of The Great Gatsby. Something about him felt achingly familiar, though she couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way he seemed lost in his own world, or the way his fingers lingered on the edge of each page as if holding on to something fragile. Their eyes met, just for a second, but it was enough. He smiled, shyly at first, then with the kind of warmth that made her heart stutter. Emma looked away, pretending to adjust her bag, though she could feel the heat rise in her cheeks. When the train jolted suddenly, she lost her balance. His hand reached out instinctively, catching her arm before she fell. "Got you," he said softly. His voice was gentle, like a secret whispered in a quiet room. "Thanks," she murmured, meeting his gaze again. "I'm Ethan," he said, a small, uncertain smile curving his lips. "Emma." The train kept moving, but for a moment it felt like time had slowed. Just the two of them, the steady rhythm of the tracks, and something unspoken beginning to bloom between them. They talked about books, about the rain, about how both of them hated the way the city could make you feel lonely, even when surrounded by thousands. She laughed more than she had in weeks. He listened as if every word she said mattered. When her stop came, she hesitated. "This is me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan looked at her, really looked, as if trying to memorize her face before she disappeared. Then, with a quick motion, he tore a page from his book and handed it to her. "Something to remember me by," he said. She took it, her fingers brushing his for just a heartbeat. The doors closed behind her. The train pulled away. Emma stood on the platform, the sound of the departing train fading into the distance. She looked down at the torn page. It was from the very end of The Great Gatsby. A single sentence was underlined. "I was within and without, simultaneously enchanted and repelled by the inexhaustible variety of life." And beneath it, written in neat handwriting, "Ethan, 9:15 a.m., circle line. Maybe I'll see you again." She smiled through the sting of tears, clutching the paper to her chest. For the first time in a long while, the gray of the city didn't seem so cold anymore.
Where the sky meets the sea, the sun was setting over the cliffs of Santorini, painting the world in gold and fire. Emily Carter, a 23-year-old traveler from London, stood at the edge of the world, or so it felt. She had left everything behind, her job, her apartment, even the idea of who she was supposed to be, chasing something she couldn't name. Freedom, maybe. Or simply the quiet promise of starting over. She wasn't looking for love. Not here, not now, but love has a way of finding those who have stopped searching. She met Liam Hayes on a ferry to Paris, a stranger with messy hair, a camera slung over his shoulder, and a smile that felt like sunlight after rain. He asked if the seat beside her was taken, and with that, something began. They spent days wandering through narrow streets and whitewashed villages, sharing stories over cups of strong Greek coffee and laughing until their cheeks hurt. Emily learned that Liam was from Ireland, a photographer chasing the perfect shot, though, he said with a grin, he thought he might have already found it. Each evening, they watched the sea together. The silence between them was never empty, it was full of something unspoken, fragile, and real. But every sunset carries a shadow. Emily's journey was supposed to end. Her ticket back to London was already booked, and Liam's next destination was across the world. Neither of them wanted to speak of it, afraid that words would make it real. On her last night, they sat on the beach, the waves whispering around their feet. "I don't want this to end," she said softly. "It doesn't have to," Liam replied, though his voice trembled with the same fear that filled her heart. They didn't promise forever. They only promised someday. And when Emily's plane took off the next morning, she looked down at the sea, the same sea that had brought them together, and smiled through her tears, because sometimes, love isn't about staying. Sometimes, it's about finding someone who changes the way you see the world, even if only for a moment. And somewhere, beneath another sky, Liam lifted his camera and captured the dawn, the first light of a new day, and the memory of a girl who had taught him how beautiful it was to feel lost.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.